Hey, welcome back. Have you ever wondered when you're most happy or feeling really alive or blissful or free or liberated? That's what this is all about. Today we're going to talk about the three paths of liberation, or you've heard this word before, moksha, which means all those things. There are three ways of being, basically, in Hinduism, and the word for this is a path or a marga, and they are karma marga, jnana marga, and bhakti marga. And we're going to talk about each one of these. And no matter who you are in all our diversity, somewhere we fit into these three, say Hinduism. So let's take a look at what this is all about. So karma marga is the active path. It's the path of works or action. It's for the person who feels that alive energy when they are really living an active life. Here you see some images of that. It might be the exhilaration of doing service, as these Habitat for Humanity people are, or dance, bodily movement, or marching for some cause, whatever it might be, the active life. This is what we're talking about, this energy where when I'm active, I'm most me. I'm most spiritual. I'm most alive. This is a very important piece because a lot of times we think as spiritual as quiet and we know we do the meditation and all of that. But it can happen just as much in the midst of the busiest life imaginable. And so this is the path of karma, the path of doing things the right way, living with a sense of dharma, a sense of ethical duty, what I need to do for the world, etc. Sometimes this is also called karma yoga. Yoga is an interchanged word with marga. It means more of a discipline or path than just path. So yoga is sometimes used. So there's that path. The next path is the path of knowledge, or jnana marga. And this is for those who are more meditative, more inward in the sense of the mind. Uh, they kind of are into philosophy, meditation, ideas about life, and so forth, the meaning of life. This is important to the person of Jnana path or Jnana marga. Now, note that when we say these things, we already start to see a pattern. Karma marga, the center of that energy is the body as a whole. In Jnana marga, obviously the center is going to be the head, and the next one is going to be the heart, as we'll see. So all these different things correspond to an energy within. Sometimes these are called chakras. You may have heard of this word before. So these three philosophical schools, we're not going to get too much into that, Vedanta, Sankhya, and yoga. Yoga not in the bodily sense, but yoga in the broader philosophical sense, although the exercise is part of that, as we'll see here. So what is yoga? How does that fit into Hinduism? Well, it fits into, surprisingly, into the path of knowledge. You'd think this is an active path with exercise and so forth, but it's not. It's meant to be a means of calming the body and making the body at one with the mind, and therefore being able to go to a deep level in the mind and reach a state called samadhi. We're not going to get into what that is, etc., in detail. You can see that in the book and learn about it for yourself. So this particular yoga that we usually associate with exercise is called hatha yoga. And there are different kinds of yoga within that, but that's where that fits in. So yoga fits into the path of knowledge. Last of all, we have the path of the heart, or bhakti yoga. Bhakti yoga is also called the path of devotion. This is where you have the focus on the various gods and goddesses of Hinduism, because the idea here is in the heart, in that relational space within us, we want to relate to the divine, not in some philosophical sense or even physically, bodily, but with our emotions, with our inner feelings. And this is where the Hinduism sees the many gods and goddesses as personal reflections of this one reality. Remember, everything's one, Brahman. right? So there's no real gods and goddesses in a sense in Hinduism. They're not like fairies running around invisibly and so forth. But they don't like to pin it down. They represent mythically this big reality of the oneness, but in all the diversity. So, for instance, you have different gods. You have the creator god, which is Brahma, okay, not to be confused with Brahman, although it's related. Brahman creates all the diversity out of this oneness or unity. So Brahma is the creator god. The preserver god is Vishnu. So things come into being, they're preserved for a time, and then what? They go out of being. They are destroyed. This is the role of Shiva, who is the destroyer god. Not in some negative sense, but just as death is part of life. And because I die in this form, I'm able to be reborn in another form, in the Hindu sense. Now, there are 330 million gods and goddesses in Hinduism, and there's a long history with this that we could get into in class. I won't get into it now. But remember that these gods are not supreme beings, but they're just reflections or aspects of this one being that is the whole universe called Brahman. Okay, and so we'll end there for today.